We're still consistent, even after a holiday.
Yeah, yeah. I've got a vacation coming up. I think in the third week in July, so I'll probably miss that one. But and then something in early September. But I'll be here, like I said.
Mm.
Commitments. Uh, Speaking of which, I've got a question. Do you would you be interested in expanding this slightly?
You talking about including another person?
Yeah, yeah. And this specific reason I'll give you this is I have another group, and one of the persons is going on hiatus, so there's just two of us left, and um, it's it's okay, but we've been going with three, and um, I said that I would see maybe if we could bring them in here, but um, I said I'd talk to you first. So
Yeah. I mean, I thought about it a couple times. My concern is that uh, I'll give you my concern, and then you could like provide encouragement or whatever. My my concern is that time will be even more scarce, just because we tend to like not only talk about our objective, but we somewhat build like a camaraderie or whatever.
Mhm.
And we almost always take a full hour. And usually you have other obligations. So like you usually have to like cut things as soon as like the hour is up. And my concern is that we have three people in there. There will be like one person on the platform probably for like probably giving a 5 minute dissertation on what they're doing, and then probably another couple of minutes explaining whatever barriers or challenges they're going through, and then receiving feedback from two people. And then like I just feel like it's, make a long story short, I feel as if it's going to add significant overhead within the 1 hour window that's already precious.
Yeah,
That's what I think.
yeah, that's a fair critique of expanding the group. Like if we had an hour and a half, it'd probably be fine from a time standpoint. Um, but yeah, I mean, so that's fair, and I think you might be right on that. I don't know that you're right, but I think you're right. So, but
Just like, I mean, I used to do. I don't know if you ever watched like Lambda Cartel, and it was like four of us, and j- to squeeze that in 1 hour, and for people to really be heard, and for people to have opportunity, so that other people can actually learn or receive a revelation. Like, I just think that 1 hour just isn't enough. Don't get me wrong, you and I, or maybe just me. I mean, I go on tangents a lot. I just think that you multiply that, or you add another person, then that just gets multiplied. I think.
sure.
I mean, we could try it out. I'm afraid that if we try it out, and I'm like, yo, this isn't working for me, then there's feelings that are going to be hurt, and then you're going to abandon me for your friend. So,
Well, no, I wouldn't abandon you ever. So, um, and you know this person too. It's Dave Rail. So,
oh, okay,
but
that's a little bit different. He's a celebrity, but
well, he's yeah, he's maybe a celebrity. I've talked to him every week for the last I think 3-4 years now.
yeah,
So
I'll talk
pretty
to him
well.
on I'll talk to him on Skype. Every once in a while, I'll just randomly message him like every 6 months, and he actually responds to me like fast.
Yeah.
So I picked his brain. I think a couple months ago, I saw him on Skype, which I'm almost never on Skype. But anyway, that's my concern.
Hmm?
You decided to name drop and drop a celebrity, and I'm like,
Well, it was more just, yeah, I only did that because it's like your friend. Well, I think it's a mutual, but um, anyhow, so I think we could do this either a couple ways. One, we could just say, nah, it'd probably be better just to stay like this way. And if that's what you think, and I'm totally fine with that. Dave and I can either just have our continual meeting Thursdays, or maybe we could find another person to fill the gap there.
Hold up, you said it was three of y'all before,
Yeah,
and so how was that working? Did you guys still allocate 1 hour?
yeah, yeah. Um, I mean, there is. I think with that group, it started off being very much business, and
Yeah,
it's kind of
you
just
don't have
evolved
time to
over
have
time to.
conversation.
It's just evolved over time to being more not business, more just talking about software development in general and life and that kind of stuff. Um, so that I mean, trying to bring someone else in that could sway the way that the conversations go to, which is another potential pitfall or benefit to this. So, depending on how you look at it. Um, but yeah, we'd meet up in for an hour pretty much every week, and like I said, for a while there, we would discuss our things, and yeah, we still do. It's just not.
Has he been consistent, or does he have obligations that are a higher priority in
Dave.
regards to yeah?
No,
Because that's
we've been consistent pretty much
okay.
every Thursday for probably, well, it's been at least 3 years that we've met every week. You know, there's occasions where we don't. Uh, you know, someone's at a conference, or someone's at a with their family on a vacation or whatever, which, like, that makes sense. Like,
Yeah,
we skipped yesterday, mostly because of the holiday. It was also his anniversary and stuff, and made sense too. So, but yeah, the consistency has been there for a long time. And I think that's maybe where I'm at with that one, is that um, it's funny. In this one, I'm not too bad, but when it was just whenever it was just Dave and I that would show up to the meeting, we'd be like, "Oh, it's awkward, too awkward, dudes hour," because it was like when you had three, you could bounce ideas around, but with two, it's like, so what are you doing? I don't know. I don't have that problem with you so far, but
did you
I don't know
guys
much
did you
faith.
guys doing three? I used to listen to Entre Programmers with
Yep. Yeah.
yeah, John Samas. I'm not sure if that still comes on. I used to like faithfully listen to it because I just found it was interesting. But yeah, I don't know. Like I was going to be like defiantly no if it was like some mere mortal. But I mean, I have a huge amount of respect for Dave Rail. Again, my concern is just the overhead, and
Yeah.
maybe
Why don't you?
I,
Why don't we?
I
We don't.
guess I would just I got to get out real fast. I guess it, if we included them, I just think that it would, which would be good or bad. I don't know. It depends on how you look at it. It would be very direct and to the point, just because it's three people with what I assume is 1 hour hard stop, which means that I can't vent, rant, stuff like that.
Well, I mean, we could expand the hour too, if it's just time. Another half an hour wouldn't, like, I could manage half an hour, especially if it's an earlier half hour, because I think we start at 6:30. I could start at 6, but actually, our other group used to start at. No, we started at 6:30. Um, anyhow, um, but yeah, I don't. We've got other things to probably talk about too. So why don't we do this? Why don't you just stew on it for maybe till next Wednesday or something, and then if you're like, or maybe sometime next week, anyways. Just if you're like, no, think it over. It's like, no, that just will not work, or whatever. I'll just figure out something else for that.
Okay.
But if you want to give it a try after a few days of stewing on it, we could always just say, hey, this is like a 1-2 time trial, and then you're by default out unless it unless it works.
And then
And that
watch them
probably
blackball me in the whole industry, where everybody denies me my next contract. Cause oh yeah, I listened to Dave Rell. He told me that yeah, we'll pass on you. All right. In regards to I said like the last 2 weeks I was going to have the mobile app talking to the database. And I did probably 98% of the database infrastructure. I I wrote I like saying the word seed. Um, I wrote like seed functionality to fill up the database with static information and also mock data. I did all that the week before. This past week, I started writing out the APIs for it. So the queries and the commands. In addition to that, I started building out the data transfer types for both the client and the server. It's another conversation of, well, isn't that the same thing? I don't know. I graveled with that. I wasn't sure. I don't think they should be tightly coupled. Whatever. I just copy pasted. Anyways, so I should definitely have it all. Oh yeah. In addition to that, I something that I do, and I'm curious if you've ever experimented with it because I think I'm the only person. It's like I have this almost all the large scale projects that I do. I always build my applications where they're not tightly coupled to an external system, hence a web server. I always build out my apps starting off with mock data, and then I later build in whatever infrastructure for me to toggle it to an external system in regards to its dependencies. And so I spent this week refactoring so that I could set the application mode to from disconnected to connected, meaning connected is it actually talks to a web server, where disconnected it's been behaving like all the demos that I've been showing you. Do you ever do that? Or do you always work on teams where it never ever works out, where you just start off with mocking out data and then later on, once that gets solidified, you put in the necessary infrastructure to connect to a server, but you have the ability, especially for testing, to troubleshoot if something is application specific or server dependency specific.
So I guess it, with probably most things, it depends, right? The so if you're in a situation where you've got two dependencies that are dependent, one of them's dependent on each other, and you want to do any sort of integration, like it's now you have to mock out all of them, right? Not just one of them to get that to work. And you have to potentially mock out like a degree of connection between them, so that if you do something over here, something happens to this one over here, so that you can test the behavior. I think I do occasionally, especially if something's not available yet. And sometimes I like to do is say, hey, if we can change this thing at a boundary where we make the behavior work in such a way, it's like mocking, but it's really like augmenting a real thing. Once they get their piece put in, if you're dealing with multi-teams, then we can just take our little chunk out that does this, and we'll be able to go. I know people that we have some other teams where they do pretty much mock out all of their dependencies, so that they can test everything in isolation. And I think that practice is good. So I think you like what you're doing is perfectly fine and good and a right path. so long as you also do the integration side testing of it and that, because I fear that there isn't enough of considering emergent behaviors. Once you get integrated, things change. Like take entity framework for instance within C# world. Like you can build out a link query that works exactly as you expect it to with a list or an in-memory type thing. As soon as you switch it over to entity framework, your link to entities comes in, or and link to SQL comes in, and it changes the whole nature of what you're doing. You know what I mean?
That's
Like, hey,
happened to
you
me
can't
before.
insert that. You can't insert that. It's primary key constraint. Well, that didn't show up in my unit test. So, or stuff isn't available, or behaviors occur when you're actually integrated and out there and everything's connected up that you don't anticipate. And I feel like every time I've ever gotten into unit tests, I spend a ton of time with it, and then I still do it just because it's kind of taboo now not to do it. But I do a lot of them, and then I get out, and there's almost always this emergent behavior that I never could have predicted that, when I test it through, I find a lot of stuff. I do like unit tests as documentation of assumptions that I make that I know that if that assumption fails, it will break the application. If I can't obviously express that in the language, like you said, type first stuff, but
Yeah, I was going to bring that up. Like, I don't know, maybe I'm just drunk off the Kool-Aid, but like leveraging types and really differentiating types for what it can represent, all the possible outputs of a given operation, like that removes a lot of problems. And when you use like a functional language, like it just won't compile if you try to take a shortcut. It just
yeah,
won't. It's a gift and a curse, right? Because you're like, I just want to just get a proof of concept out. I just want to just let me do this. It won't let you. So like, all right. In addition to that, I picked out my dream e-bike. It costs like $8,500.
it's a lot of deliveries.
Well, it's my dream e-bike, right? For anybody else, I mean, there's e-bikes out there. I was looking at one earlier this morning called Electric Bike, Lectric, if I spelled that right. And those are like $1,000 pre-order. I think they go up to 28 miles an hour. They're small, but you should be able to attach a trailer to it. The thing that I'm betting on, and I'm confident, and I said this, I think I said this to you earlier. It's like electric bikes are going to be like ubiquitous, and so like in Miami, you just see scooters everywhere doing deliveries, right? And I think
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, I don't know if the word is cusp, but I think I'm on the cusp of like next generation type deliveries. You know, I could take advantage of child labor, right? Like little kids doing deliveries for me on their little electric dirt bikes and paying them next to nothing, right? So, make a long story short, like, yeah, man, I saw like electric bike starting with an L. Like these are like 900, $1,000 bikes, and they look. Those are the type of bikes where I think I could buy a fleet of them. You know, if I wanted to provide the assets or the transportation for people to do deliveries for me. Um, in addition to that, South Beach. You never been to Miami, have you?
No, no.
In regards to logistics, starting off, I think I'm just going to have one designated restaurant that's pretty popular, and they have like an encyclopedia for a menu. Like it's just huge. Their menu options, and I think that that's just going to be the only restaurant for South Beach as I get started. And because it's right there in South Beach, it's just just extremely short, distance or proximity to people in South Beach.
Hmm.
From like it's on Fifth Street, and I'm sure like I would cover all the way to maybe like 30th Street, and I'm just going to use that. So if they're within, to make a long story short, South Beach is something I always considered, but I think I'm going to just go with that one restaurant down there, and then maybe a couple months start scaling up because it's just right there, pretty much on the beach. I'm going scatterbrain. In regards to anything else, next week I plan on actually demoing, right, via my desktop, me connecting to the database and the same data um, is being shown or observed as you do a transaction on the app. I want to demo that, and I need to start figuring out this whole event sourcing thing. So I might have an initial setup for that as well. Hopefully, the demo next Friday.
Cool stuff. Yeah, I was googling where South Beach and Fifth Street is. So there's a lot of restaurants in that area. Holy cow!
Yeah, but this restaurant is really, really good, and it has a huge. It just has a lot of options, and so and it sits on Ocean Drive, and so people were literally, and plus they don't even. My understanding is they don't have any partnerships with Uber Eats or anything like that. Um, Meaning that they don't have a whole bunch of tablet devices dangling everywhere.
Hmm.
Supposedly they do their own deliveries, but when I attempted to figure out how to order online, it was broke, right? Which is kudos to me. So that should be the biggest market is South Beach. As long as like marketing is on point and people know that the service exists, which maybe maybe 6 weeks from now we can have a conversation about how to really like execute on that. So like people know that it exists regardless of if they want to use it or not, the service.
Hmm. Man, there's like more restaurants in that like small little section there than there is probably in the entire town that I live in.
This is nothing but tourists where I say
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, cool. So, did
what's
you
going
figure
on.
out what you're using for the database for Event? Are you using Event Store then?
I am. I just have to man up and use it. I don't know if you saw my questions on Twitter like 2 or 3 weeks ago, but
Hmm.
people said I'm initially reinventing the wheel if I use SQL Server, which because of me not having any experience, I'm not really sure what that means. But when I kind of looked at the documentation of Event Store, I guess there's like some uh, some common operations such as like subscriptions and stuff like that 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 framework or that technology provides that just makes it easier, which seems as if maybe I'll end up duplicating the functionality if I did it just using SQL Server where it's already out the box. My biggest concern, for lack of a better term, is I'm just terrified of the deployment process and me being lost with how to deploy these technologies or data stores that I just don't have experience with. Like SQL Server is straightforward, right? Any hosting company, they just make a push button for you to like, you know, push a BAK file or upload a BAK file to their SQL Server instance. But like a data store, I'm just afraid that I'll probably be spinning my wheels for a whole week just trying to figure out how to deploy it to production. That's my fear. That's where I'll probably tap Odie. Odie's really good with DevOps stuff and deployments. I used him last time in a couple of my streams where we were like live debugging, and he got it to work when I was doing Elm production stuff. Cookie, stop licking yourself.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, if there's people doing it, there's got to be probably, hopefully, an easy way to do it. Not like trying to get an HTTP or a free certificate for HTTPS on Azure. That was a pain in the butt.
I think you mentioned that in the last session we had.
Yeah, maybe at some point did that, and it's like this whole process of a bunch of steps. So, but yeah, I guess maybe you and I are sharing something that I can learn, like I have, and I out of necessity and stuff, and to the whole deployments and DevOpsy side of the world, like I can do it. It's not something I enjoy at all. I know people that are just love it. It's to me like I really love expressing stuff in code and figuring out how to structure things in a way that makes sense and is clean and extensible or whatever. But when it comes to like, okay, you've got something working, now let's get it hooked up to the internet. Oh God, I just don't want to do it.
Yeah, I mean, something that I'm attracted. I don't like all the script files that may be necessary in order to deploy or whatever. But the DevOps stuff that I am interested in is like canary releases and dark launches. Like that stuff I could get off on, like or even like programming like statistical analysis where like you know what the the behavior should be based on a number of whatever events that occurred in your system, right? The amount of times that people put items in their cart, the amount of times that people check out, the number of people that drop off during the workflow of using an e-commerce app and they don't go through with it, right? So you maintain like a range of what you expect. But the part that I'm in love with is if you put in that infrastructure of you understand the behavior of X percentage of people are going to drop off at this stage, at this stage, at this stage, or you're going to have X amount of transactions per day and it grows at this rate. So we're forecasting in 2 months that we should be experiencing this number of successful like transactions. Then I want to put in like type of like fraud detection and this is where I have to reread about standard deviation. If it drops below or exceeds above 2 times the standard deviation of this number that I'm looking at for amount of purchases or amount of people exiting out or stuff like that, then I get a text message via Twilio that something's not off. There's strange behavior that's inconsistent with what we've been experiencing for the last 2 months. Maybe you should look into this. And then I'll find out that someone's trying to steal or whatever. That's the part I get into, right? But the deployment part, no. But the telemetry is what I'm talking about. Yeah, I'll get into that. Put that on my resume.
Yeah, I was going to say, if you're super interested in it, why don't you become an expert at that? There's not enough of those.
Well, because people that hire me, one, they have no clue about that part of it. They have no clue about telemetry. They just crud, right? That's it. So like I'm using this as an experience. Something that I've learned in life is you first have to demonstrate that you can do the job by doing it in order for people to hire you, right? You don't ask people to hire you or give you money and say, hey, I want to learn how to do this on your time and on your budget. For me, the answer is always no. But if I just do it on my own time, this is what I did. This is something that you can never, ever take from me. I did this on my own time. This is what I've learned from it. This is what I blogged on. No matter how much you don't like me, it doesn't matter. This is my experience. You can't deny it. Then I believe I have leverage, right? And they can't take that from me, regardless of anything else they don't like about me. So that's my.
You're just too ethical. Is the problem. No, I look at I think most contracting firms, I think almost all, it's they bring people in and they're they're learning on the job. It's
That's because they lie on their resume.
yeah, or it might not be the people relying on it as an independent contractor maybe, but it might be the company that's bringing you in says, oh yeah, this person's an expert at this. Like that's when I made my first career move, I was told that I was a PDF expert. Just like, I'm like, okay, I guess I will be a PDF expert in 2-3 weeks, maybe, hopefully. It was kind of fun stuff, but like, I hadn't done any PDF processing.
Quick question, and then we'll transition
Yeah.
to your status. Well, you don't actively like. You could tell me afterwards, but like when you did actively apply or browse other opportunities, and recruiters would email you or call you, I get some questions. I don't want to say they're stupid, but I just wish that tech recruiters kind of had more training, right? So they'll say, "Do you have experience using APIs?" Or they'll say like, "Oh, okay, we see you're a .NET developer. Do you know C sharp?" Like, or
Yep. Yeah.
they'll say, well, we see that you have Xamarin experience. Do you have any mobile experience? Like, I get asked questions like this at least once a week. Sometimes they're like, we need someone that knows XML. Like,
To what
uh,
degree? Yeah.
yeah, well, they don't know what they're asking us. They don't know what it means,
Yeah.
right?
They're just given a list of keywords and say, hey, go find these people. Actually, that'd be a fun Twitter thread to follow. Do you follow, is it Kevin Henley, whatever?
Yeah, I
And
met them before. Yeah,
people
I
will
think you
post
follow
like
them.
if they find like a blue screen in the wild or like a black screen with something other than what was intended, they'll tweet at Kevin Henley like, oh, here's the that'd be a fun thread to follow. Somebody who's like, when a recruiter sends you something that doesn't make sense, just at me, and so then I can just follow whoever and just listen, read all of these fun recruiter messages.
Yeah.
So that was one thing, like, because I did some recruiting with one of my last job before this one. We did college recruiting, and occasionally we would recruit people that were, uh, experienced or whatever. But it was us, like developers, doing the recruiting, and like I felt like that was a really good deal because we actually knew what we were looking for, and we could talk to people about technology and what their interests are in that realm, and be somewhat intelligent about the conversation. So I thought that was a pretty cool situation. But then I got contacted by a company who was like, I looked at your profile and I've never seen ever anyone who's considered both a recruiter and a software developer at the same time. Like I don't understand why that's such a unique thing. I didn't get into as much technical recruiting like they're doing in terms of like experienced people going out and trying to find people like you, for instance. But still, it's like spending half your time on that or taking a developer and putting them in that role.
Well, they're not going to spend money on someone that's responsible for recruiting talent. They're not. It's a lot of like, I don't know what the definition of misnomer is, but I'm going to use that word anyway. There's a lot of misnomers about development. Like, for example, you're familiar with SDET or Software Development Engineering Test? Have you heard that term before?
No.
Okay, well now you have SDET, Software Development Engineering Test. I think Microsoft coined it a while back, but it's an actual position. It's essentially a developer that works in quality assurance that builds out test tools, right? To I won't say qualify software, but more to break software, right? You're a developer working for the testers.
Yeah.
And so you have the skill of building software tools, right? So you're a developer, but you also have the mentality of proving that software is not capable or is not ready for release. So you have the mentality of a tester, but they get paid less than developers in the majority of like companies. But you know way more. You have the skill of a developer and a tester, but because it has like an association to testing, they just automatically lower the pay rate. And so like that's an example of just people just being ignorant. And ignorant is the right definition because that's exactly what it is. They just don't know any better.
Yeah. Yeah. That's true.
I stopped putting it on my resume. So, anyways, how's everything with you?
Okay. Been kind of a crap week for getting stuff done, but I got my base all kind of squared off, and then I built out the top, and I almost got to the point where I'm like I can share something again on Twitter, but like I with the holiday yesterday, just ugh. But so I've got a box built out, and I've made some adjustments to the base that I have. I took it apart and chopped 5 inches off and stuff like that. So I'm iterating for sure. I'm not getting a lot of sleep, or not getting as much sleep as I used to because of it. Uh, you ever work on a software development project at night and then go to bed and you can't stop thinking about it?
Yeah,
Yeah, that's with
it
this
disrupted
table.
my relationship several years ago with my significant other. She thought I was going out cheating on her. I was literally going out to the office because I was like, I was trying to recover, right,
Yeah,
and figure things out because I had dug myself a hole. And that's because now I'm so dogmatic about unit testing because I didn't have any tests and I would fix one thing and four other things would break. And I just knew I was going to get fired. So, yeah, I would have a hard time sleeping because I'm always thinking about what else I had to do before so that the boss wouldn't find out and clean things up. So, yeah.
yeah, but that's the exact same thing that's happening here. Is I'm like sitting in bed at whatever time of night, thinking about like right now how I'm gonna make like the edges of the outside where the cup holders and stuff are gonna be. Like how am I gonna structure that, and how
Yeah,
will the
you're
wood
full
look?
throttle on this, aren't you?
Yeah, yeah. My mind's constantly going on like, okay, I want to try this pattern. It's really the same. Like I've had this exact same process with software development too, thinking about structure, and this time it's previously it's been like code structure, right? Okay, if I structure things like this and I put this here, well then I could do it like this, and your mind goes off on that route. Same thing with this, working with wood and figuring out how to like construct it in a way. Like the design process is the exact same. So I'm thinking about, okay, if I for instance, I'm right now my plan is to have these like wooden planks that are like slid in from the side. Like I don't know if you've ever had like maybe like a cooler where the top slides off, and those ones maybe spin around or whatever, or like there's pencil boxes that have sliding lids or whatnot. But have something like that where this thing will slide off, and then it'll expose some cup holders or some other things underneath it. And how I'm gonna like structure the whole table to work like that, um, and how I have to make the trim around the woodwork to hide the fact that this is there, and to make it so that these things don't fall off. If you just tip the table. So like there's all these like design considerations that I'm iterating over
Did you
Um,
consider? I didn't mean to cut you off. Did you consider um, the other option of instead of sliding to expose? This one's tightly coupled though. Is you unfold, which extends the table, but it exposes cup holders or whatever else.
yeah. The technique for that with the gaming tables is what they'll do is they'll have so they've got the top here, and then they'll have these blocks here that are kind of split in half, and then they'll have another layer down here. And essentially, you take the top and you flip it this way, and then what happens is the top piece and the bottom piece connect to make a flat surface like this
Yeah.
all the way out, and then there'll be like a surface here with cup holders and stuff like that in it. And then all you do is just flip it back and you put it back. If you look up gaming tables, there's a bunch of them out there that have that system to it where it's a flip out system like that. The reason why I'm not going that route is because I don't want to get into having to buy expensive hardware for it. Which this sounds like a software conversation now. I don't want to buy expensive hardware to run it. No, which to put those to put the hinges in to do that flip thing, those to make a strong enough hinge that's skinny enough to fit these 3/4 inch boards that I have is it's like $10 for a pair of those, and like I don't want to get a bunch of them and be like, oh, I don't really need these or whatever. So I might go down that route with a future table just to try it out. But I also wanted to try to do something that's just not been, it's not that it hasn't been done, but maybe look at the other designs that, so if I look at the gaming tables that are actually out there, like I can get this narrow scope of here's how they're doing it and I'll just make mine like them. But I'm going out and trying to look at different furniture and different tables and different stuff from other like I was Googling fish cup holders for boats yesterday. And that's that's what I was looking at to try to see if I could draw inspiration from, well, how do they do it? Because they have kind of a tack on system for these cup holders, and what do they do if someone leans on it, to break away or whatever and things like that. And that's where I devised my current iterations. So, sorry, that's
no. So have you developed like a whole new respect or a deeper respect for tables?
Yeah, I don't know. No, I've been down this way before. I haven't spent as much time thinking about the end. Like I want it. Like the first two tables I built were pretty straightforward. It's like board, drill some holes, cup holders thing. This one I'm actually trying to think of like, okay, if I use it like this or if I construct it like this, how is it going to look when it's done? And
Are they going to have wheels on the bottom of it?
Huh?
Are they going to have wheels on the bottom? Like, can you move the table?
Yeah, probably not.
Okay.
I mean, it could. It'd have to be some pretty hardy wheels, but the problem with wheels is they add like for this stuff would add probably like 5 inches, so I'd have to chop that off of my chop it off of my base. So yeah, there's a lot of anyways, a lot of considerations, especially around height. I could do that if I was to have countertop level seating.
Mm-hmm.
Like, so 30 inches is standard tabletop. 36 inches is countertop height, and then 42 inches is like bar top height. So you can get chairs at those levels and stuff like that. But I'm trying to target the standard table so that a folding chair will work with it. But
did any more information trickle in from would-be customers about your last idea?
No, I haven't had anybody reach out about that.
Okay.
So like, hey, how's this going? Maybe come next October, I might have a someone reprise that. But yeah, I haven't heard any emails back from the one person I emailed, and yeah, it's mostly just on hiatus, I guess. But I don't know. I get done with this table and then I want to build a. I'm getting other ideas for things while I'm doing it. Like I might make this table have like a Batman theme to it eventually because I might have mentioned this before. There's my brother-in-law's got this shop and which I'm making it for, and he's got comics, a bunch of comics, and we want to do this like comic decoupage type thing where you rip up a bunch of comics, you inset them, and then you like cover them with a resin or whatever to or whatever to make a smooth top. But then it has this, comics embedded in it type thing. And I want to make that for the top. But then I was thinking about stuff like the other day I sketched out using like a Batman symbol to make the I don't know what you would call it, the runner or whatever that a table would sit on. So like I don't know. There's all sorts of stuff going on up there about in this realm now that has nothing to do with software.
I think if you do the Batman or any type of like comic trademarks, I don't think you're allowed to sell it.
I don't know that that's true because so if I own a comic book store and I get in a Batman comic, I'm selling the comic and that comic can be sold. I think it's so long as I don't physically copy the thing, right? So if I put a like I don't know, it would be kind of sketchy ground to have the like Batman logo, as part of the whole thing because then it's licensed through them. The thing that I'm talking about with the comics on top though, that's just a derived work purchasing something that's already copywritten, So I think that's fine. But yeah, I guess you're right. If I do include a thing in there, of course, people do this stuff all the time. Like you can.
Yeah, they're Chinese. They live in China. Like it's a little bit harder to enforce.
No, like you look at Etsy shops and people are ripping, people are ripping off IP all the time on there.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
I mean, like my wife's bought like Minion hats and stuff, and it's not officially licensed Minion hat. Like people just make this stuff and sell it.
Well, I think it's when you start getting big and you show up on people's radar as someone that has a successful business, then that's when like you attract all types of attention.
Yeah. I wonder though, like I've always wondered about that, the whole copyright thing, and I wonder how hard it would be to actually just go and ask permission to be licensed to include a trademarked thing or a copywritten thing in your stuff. Like if you're a small person working on like an Etsy shop or something like that where you don't have a lot of customers, it's just like you're small potatoes. Like but you want to make something that's legally themed like Batman. Like how do I get licensed to do that? You know what I mean?
I'm not sure, but I think it equates to you paying them royalties.
Yeah.
Or I think, again, I've never done it before, but I would assume that they would get like a royalty or commission for whatever you sell, or you would buy the license and then sell it, but you already bought it, so they already have their money.
Yeah.
Again, I never researched it.
Yeah.
But it's kind of like a proven model, right? Like Superman, Batman. This sounds familiar, right? Because when I was thinking about Amazon, I was I was considering like selling like ball caps and wristbands with these trademarks on it. But I didn't spend any time actually investigating the actual costs to print them out, the legal costs to print them out. I didn't do that.
Yeah. But yeah, that's kind of what, where I'm at with that. So I think as long as if I stay out of actually copying the symbols and if I were to use any sort of already licensed thing and I just incorporate them. I'm doing a derived work or whatever, but it's not like I'm making something that's a direct copy. I'm already using something that I don't think that that's against copyright rules. Like it's like, yeah, you can't resell toys, if you've made any modifications to them, like you can. So
Okay.
yeah. Anyways, regardless, it's I think it'll be cool when I'm done, and we'll see. For this next week, though, I should have some time tonight and probably maybe some time on Sunday to work on things. Hoping to get it back to the point where I've got a top and a bottom, and I've got the whole table put together. And then I'm gonna I might, instead of just going right into building out this thing with the edges for cup holders and stuff, I might actually put together a small prototype of it first, so that I don't use up all my wood trying to build something that's not going to work.
Have you had to read any books?
I watched a lot of YouTube videos about stuff. It kind of sucks with that though, because it's like you need a lot of the stuff you need specific tools for, and to do it without those specific tools, it can be kind of a hassle. But
What does a carpenter's toolbox look like? Well, I think I know. Well, at a high level, I think I know what a mechanic's toolbox looks like, or a tool chest, whatever you want to call it.
yeah,
I assume it's significantly bigger.
well, yeah. I mean, if you're talking about like someone who did only hand tools, I mean, there's a lot of ones, but like stuff that I think you would need to be like a fully equipped, carpenters. You need stuff like, well, obviously table saw gets used a lot, but then you have things like a planer.
A
Um,
leveler, or is
yeah,
that with
a
lasers?
planer. No, a planer will like shave off the top of like a board to make it all flat. So take out all those things. I mean, you'll need levels to know whether things are level or not. Uh, uh, Having a bandsaw and a jigsaw and a miter saw all help. Um, but you can do a lot of those. You can do a lot of those functions with a table saw. But bandsaw, like there's different things, capabilities that you get with each tool. Um, drill press also really helps for things like jointing. There's jointer tools to put biscuits and or like
You're
dowel.
speaking a different language now. You
Yeah,
said jointer tools, biscuits. I'm like, what the?
yeah, these little wooden biscuits like you slide in to connect a couple boards up together.
Do they use CNC machines for carpentry?
Yeah, I think they do now. It's not traditional carpentry, but people use them for things. Yeah.
I used to know some of that. I used to be a machinist when I was like 19.
Hmm,
I couldn't stand the math though. So
cool. So, anyways, yeah, I should be able to have at least a non pretty but functional table probably to share by on Twitter this week. So, um,
cool. Then people could play beer pong on it.
yeah, well, sort of. Yeah, I'm also starting to think ahead about staining and what the color set that I want to use. So, like wood staining. Yeah.
Look, I know I'm going on a tangent, but I think this might sell. You build a beer pong table so that you don't need cups. It's built in.
Well, don't you need the cups to drink?
Oh shoot! All right, it's been a while since I played. Yeah, you're right.
I think
Never
I've
mind.
only played beer pong once. So,
I used to play a lot. I once played a perfect game.
oh yeah, awesome.
Yeah. All right. I'm sorry for interrupting.
No, that's all right. But I don't know. Even something as simple as cup holders though isn't that simple. So you have a standard cup holder, right? And that's cool. But what if you want to put a mug in there? then they have cup holders that have like this edge cut out. But what about a wine glass? Now they have
Well,
cup holders with an edge cut out and a divot to hold the wine glass. It's like there's a lot of
it wouldn't make sense to have a mug in the cup holder of a car or truck because it bounces over the terrain.
yeah.
Right? So you have to have a lid, and so I think they standardized on cups with lids, right, from your 32 ounce to your medium sized drinks, whatever.
But for a stationary table though, like
For a stationary table,
cup holders have a different, set of vessels they have to support or should support.
well, an option, although it seems like overhead, but it would be experimental, is you have slots that have the interface built inside of it, kind of like a drawer where you plug in a slot that has a certain type of interface for holding the cup or the wine glass or the
Yep.
mug. And it's just exchangeable where you just throw the ones that you don't want in the closet. But that's like overhead and seeing, but you would make money on replacements.
Yeah, no, that's most of the game tables have that. It's called a rail system.
Okay.
So yeah, they have inserts basically that go either on the table or on the side of the table, and then they're designed so that if you lean on them, they break away, which is one of the things that are scaring me off from going this route because the engineering of that and the precision of that I don't know if I get, um, but yeah, they basically just sell like here's a cup holder insert. You just slide it into the side, and they'll have different styles for what kinds of things you want. And that's the that's one of the models that some of these companies have taken is that they have a lot of these different kind of possible connections or things to the core table for. Oh, you want to have a customized, you want your cup holder here, you want your dice tray here, blah, blah, blah. Um, you buy all these separate things. I kind of want to do that, but I want to do it within the bounds of this edge that I'm building out. So I have these slide off tops, and then within there, I've got these different modules that fit into those places that I've slid off. So cup holders being one, but um, dice trays or a card.
You know what? You know what you're. I'm thinking out loud, so it's not going to make sense. I'll first pose it as a question. What's your stretch goal?
My stretch goal
Yeah.
with this whole well, so the thing that I'm trying to the immediate thing is to get a table into the store for my brother-in-law. That's just one thing, but we're going to put a price tag on it, and then we're going to just see if anybody bites. And if someone bites, then I can build a new table. And presumably, we're going to put it for enough money where I don't feel bad if it were to sell. So, like, where I've spent all this time for $100, it's like I spend all this time for $500, maybe that would be worth it. But
Well, that's a store. What else? This is me pushing you.
oh, if I kept going with woodworking and stuff like that, and in this realm, um, game tables, but also I mean getting into other coffee tables and things like that.
Nope. So, have you considered what's the most common thing? I understand, like we probably think differently or whatever, or I'm just way off and it's not going to work in reality. But like in gaming, what's popular that attracts the masses?
In video games or in board games, or what are we talking?
Doesn't matter, right? I know I'm playing games with you, but this is fun for me. I'm trying to steer you into like a stretch goal, and if you tap out, I'll go ahead and tell you. But I'm trying to get you there.
Well, my time's running short here, but
Tournaments.
oh yeah,
All
yeah.
right. So the thought process is like your right now. Your goal is to put a table in the store and see if someone buys it, right? I think you should consider the stretch goal of being the vendor or supplier for gaming tables for a tournament. I don't care what tournament it is. It could be a poker tournament, it could be a video game tournament, it could be Dungeons and Dragons. But I think the stretch goal should be, and I understand that, well, you would have to scale and that you have to make money, but that's fine. Like if you could become a preferred vendor, right? Which I know has a lot of overhead and there's a lot of politics or whatever, but I think your goal should be to get your stuff inside of a tournament, right? That means that you have tables, plural, and you sell most of them, or you rent them, right?
Yeah.
It could be
Yeah.
renting for tournaments, or it could be selling. But I think that's the stretch goal, is to find venues where it's going to be people, right, that are all part of the same interest, doing things simultaneously, and you get your product in there. Calle Ocho is a strip in Miami, and they have this area that's dedicated to dominoes, and you have all your old, very senior Cubans, right? They got about 16. They have between 12 and 16 tables, and they're always filled. And they're perfectly built for dominoes, right? You have a couple of people playing chess, but the majority of these Cubans are playing dominoes. And they have tour buses that drop tourists off from all other countries. And one of the things that you get to see is these Cubans that are elderly playing their dominoes. Make long story short, like, I think that's something that you should at least consider or surf the web on, is who are the preferred vendors for these types of tournaments or interest groups, and maybe put that on your radar. That's all.
Yeah. Well, a lot of ones that are running those things are small game shops. Um, not a lot of money to spend on it, but they could have some. Um, Mostly those would be good for advertising, right? It's a way to get your name out. Like if they go to a game shop and play in a tournament on your table, and they like, man, I would really like a table like this in my house. Who makes this? Um, it's a good app, and that's kind of the nature of what we're doing with my I think with my brother-in-law's shop. Other than he also just wants to have a game table so that he can get people in the door to do stuff, but if they can look at this and say, "Hey, who made this table? This is cool. I would like one for my house." Um, then they'll see that, and then hopefully we can get leads built up that way. Uh, but there are some big for ones where it's actually bigger. There are some big name table companies. There's one called Geek Chic that actually went belly up. That was pretty good. But now there's two or three others that have kick-started, game tables, and now are in, now we're actually producing them. There's one called Wraithskellers or Rathskellers. There's another one called the Table of Ultimate Gaming. I think
Okay.
the former one is higher end. I think they're a European company. The latter one is more affordable, but they do a lot of stuff with those attachments and things. So they sell you the table for cheap, but they'll get you on all the add-ons that they provide for it. So, but if I can make the table simple enough where it's cool, but it's easy to build, and it doesn't require high-end stuff, where I'm thinking the demographic where it's like, just people that game that maybe don't make a lot of money and wouldn't be able to buy those kinds of tables. I wonder if serving them would, I don't know. Anyways, long story short, yeah, it'd be cool to be, part of have the table in a tournament. I'd have to get to a good degree of woodworking first, though. I have a lot of learning to do within that regards. Unless I can come with some patented innovation to tables that only I own, that everyone wants, it's a commodity like any other thing. So,
Well, I mean, I know it's going into a different subject, and I have to literally go in like 3 minutes. Is you can you can buy mass quantity of tables, slap your logo or trademark on it, and then rent them out, right? This is what a lot of people do. This is what eBayers do.
Yeah.
They take all that stuff from China. They they have either that same company or another company that specializes in branding place their trademark on it, then they just start selling it. So
Yeah.
I don't know. It seems like if it were easy, everybody would be doing it. I guess I don't know anything
Yeah.
about tables.
Well, I mean, think of how easy it is to fill a gumball machine, but it's not. Like, it takes work, and a lot of people don't want to do it. So it's hard for me to get up the gumption to do anything. But yeah. But yeah, I gotta go. Sounds like you do too. So
Yeah, my phone's ringing, so I gotta do something. All right,
all right.
we'll catch up. Thanks.
Yep, yeah.
Did we make a decision on having a third person?
Well, like I said, think about it, and maybe we'll connect up mid next week or early next week, and you can let me know if you're like, I thought about it, and yeah, let's give it a shot, or I thought about it, and I really don't think it's a good idea, or I thought about it, and if we do this, then I think it'll work.
All right.
It's got to be. I'm okay with it, at least trying it, but if it's got to be two sides, right? So if you don't want to try it, that's totally okay with me too. So
All right, we'll catch up. Thanks.
all right, see ya.
See you. Bye.
Bye.